Hi, I'm Hector Del Castillo, Chief Product Officer at BYOND, and I'd like to welcome all of you to today's discussion. The topic for today is 3 growth hacks to accelerate your company's revenue. And we have our host today is Lori Wiggins, and also our speaker is Casey Stanton. I would like to welcome both of them and just say hi. Hi, Lori. How are you?
Good, Hector. It's great to be here today.
All right. And Casey, how are you doing?
Hey, things are good. I'm up in Philadelphia, and the sun might come out today, so feeling pretty
Oh,
good.
you're lucky. We're actually cloudy right now in the DC metro area, so and it's going to be raining. So
Yes.
it's just going to get darker, actually. So welcome. I'd like to welcome both of you. And as I mentioned, the topic for today is 3 growth hacks to accelerate your company's revenue. And I'd like to go over some housekeeping items that I've already shared via the chat in case you're wondering. Everybody is muted. You're in listen-only mode, so you can only interact with us via the chat window. So feel free to submit any comments, any questions. We are going to be having a Q&A portion during today's discussion at the end, and you can ask Casey any questions you might have. If you have any questions, even on the fly, go ahead and type them in. We'll be monitoring the chat. You have access to that, and share with us where you're joining us from, but also any questions for Casey regarding today's topic. If you encounter any audio issues, you can refresh your browser, or you might need to leave and come back using the same link that you used to join today's session. You are allowed to come back. And also you can submit questions using the chat window, and we can either get to them as we go, or we can leave them for the Q&A portion of today's discussion. We are recording today's session, and we are planning on sending you a link post-event where you can view all the content, including the video that comes out. So the video playback will be available to you. And then also we'll be sharing other content and our slides as well. So be on the lookout for that link post-event. I also would like to encourage you, if you are if you're a Twitter user or you're on LinkedIn, feel free to follow our company page on LinkedIn. You can also follow our profile, our handle on Twitter at BeyondMA. Lori's handle is at Lori J. Wiggins, and then mine is at HM Del Castillo. I'll be sharing these via the chat so you can have access to them. And then Casey, you might want to share yours as well in the chat as well with the listeners. And also the company page, the short URL here, bit.ly/BeyondMA. M&A is the company page. You can actually follow us and be on the lookout for information that we send out, in addition to upcoming events that we usually will post on both Twitter and LinkedIn. And we are recording today, so special thanks to Scott Taylor, who is actually our editor and producer of videos. He actually does a great job in providing us a video that we can turn around and put it on a page, so you can view the video playback immediately after the live session. So thanks a lot, and a shout out to Scott. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Lori Wiggins, CEO of BYOND. Lori, take it away.
Thank you, Hector. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, and it's great to see you here today. It is my pleasure to introduce Casey Stanton, who's the CEO of CMO Exponential. And Casey is going to be talking to us today about 3 growth hacks to accelerate your company's revenue. Casey, it's all yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Lori. All right, I'm going to share my screen here. And in the chat, will you all let me know if you can see my screen? We just reply yes, if you can. All right, thank you, Ethan. All right, great. So I'm going to, thank you, Lori. All right, I'm going to minimize the chat. I'm going to go through the slides here, and at the end, we'll do a Q&A. So any questions that you have, feel free to add them to the chat. I just won't see them until the end. But today we're going to be talking about the 3 growth hacks to accelerate your company's revenue. And I want you to get out your notepad. This isn't going to be me just talking at you. I want you also to take notes, because there's something here that's really applicable, and I want you to be able to take notes and get started. This is a training, but also a workshop at the same time. All right. So who is this for? This is for any ambitious business owner, marketing manager, marketing coordinator, or marketing director, or CMO or head of HR. And if you want to develop a winning marketing strategy and execute on that strategy to generate predictable growth in your business. In the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to tell you about 3 hacks. I'm going to tell you about the single most important hack to quickly identify and resolve marketing and sales issues before they explode. This is really important. Number 2 is exactly what your marketing team must do every week to get and to stay on track to finally deliver consistent marketing results. And number 3 is how to get buy-in from the entire marketing team so that the team is actually accountable. It's a lot, but I promise you we'll get through it in the next 30 minutes. Also, I'm offering a free gift here at the end. If you stick around to the end, I'll be sharing how you can clarify your quarterly marketing goal at no cost. And as we record this call today, it is the end of Q1. So if you're planning your Q2, you should have a Q2 marketing plan, and I'd love to support you on that. So I'll show you what that can look like as a free gift at the end. All right. So a lot of companies that I speak with are on the left. They expend energy in multiple directions and really get nowhere. I once heard of it as, what happens if you were jumping on a bus and hopping off at every stop and getting on a new bus? Would you ever get to a good destination? Would you ever get to the destination you wanted to go to? Or should you instead stay on the bus long enough to get to a destination? Have a focus. What we're going to talk about today is how you can have that focus. And that focus becomes a piercing point in your business. It becomes your ability to break through maybe a ceiling, a financial ceiling that you have, or a growth ceiling that you have. We're going to talk about how to use the same people, if you have people, to get more done. And that's what I'm excited to share today. But first, who am I? You might be asking. So my name's Casey, as Lori mentioned, and I'm the founder of CMO X. And I help businesses scale their revenue through marketing since 2008. I'm an expert on the evolving landscape of marketing strategy, digital marketing, sales, and remote teams. I'm always looking for a win-win outcome for entrepreneurs and their team members, knowing, number one, that entrepreneurs are the people that take the risk and should get the reward. So we want to make sure their life quality is as high as possible. I'm a former Tulane University professor of marketing. I'm a Michigan State alum, and I spend my weekends with my wife and our 8-month-old baby son and my dog exploring the city of Philadelphia. We've worked with a number of clients, so just to share, here's just a couple of them. On the top left, Abundance and Genius Network. Those are 2 of the biggest, most successful mastermind groups. Then you've got information product companies like the Relationship School. You've got personal development and training companies like Bo Eason's work, or Farnham Street, which has the second highest readership of people on Wall Street, second to the Wall Street Journal. I've worked with companies in the SaaS space, in the coaching space, kind of all across the board. But I wasn't always great. Certainly have had failures in my past, and here's one of them. So back in 2011, 10 years ago, I worked on a marketing campaign, and I had my hands on a project where we spent $183,294, and we made about $15. I don't mean we made $183,000 plus with a $15 profit. I mean, we spent $183,000 and we got back $15. It was an incredible loss. So I've definitely had my fair share of failures, and I've learned a lot from them. But today, I personally advise and coach companies to optimize their revenue and profits with marketing. I coach and advise them by following my functional marketing framework. And that's what I'm going to show you today. Now, the reason we're going to talk about this functional marketing framework is because the framework is the thing that allows me to not do this again. So I know what's going to be a failure before I even start it. And it helps me kind of guide on a week-to-week basis to ensure that we're actually going to get the outcome that we want. When we made this $15 on the end of a $183,000 ad buy, we didn't know if we were going to be successful or not. And today, that's completely unacceptable. It is unacceptable to spend that kind of money. It's unacceptable to spend more than a couple $1,000s and not know what your results are going to be. So how do we understand what the results are going to be? How can we be the Nostradamus of marketing? Well, I'm going to show you that in the first hack here. So let's get into the marketing hacks to accelerate your company's revenue. So the first one is this growth hack, which is I want you to plan and track progress with a scorecard. Have you ever heard of a scorecard for marketing? If you have and you aren't using one, you're missing out on a huge ability to understand what's going on in your market or in your business immediately, like right now. And also what your week over week and month over month and quarterly progress is. So what is a marketing scorecard? Well, it's just the facts. It's a simple document with just the facts, and it just shows 5 to 15 KPIs that detail the health and the success of marketing. That's it. 5 to 15, and I encourage it to be more like 5. For most businesses, 5 is probably plenty. Said another way, the executive wants to see the sausage, and the marketing team can see it can have another document on how the sausage is made. Right? They can have their click-through rates, they can have their impressions, they can have their frequency, their cost per lead, their cost per click, their CPL, their LTV. All those things can be included in a marketing scorecard, but like in the roll-up that the executive sees, 5 to 15 KPIs. So let's take a peek at an example. So here's actually a scorecard that I worked with a company to develop, and they hire workers in a specific industry, but their job is to hire workers and to have workers. So as you look at the scorecard, it's pretty simple and straightforward. On the left-hand side here, we have the educate side. So how do we bring people in? We call that top of funnel. And then middle of funnel, and then bottom of funnel is their acquisition. So we've defined these a little more than 15, but trying to kind of suss out exactly what the right numbers are here to track. And the sessions on the website, pages per session, not terribly important, right? For the roll up here, what is important? Total number of calls they're receiving, their ad spend. But really it's this. This is what matters the most. Really, it's these two numbers. How many active employees do they have? And how many applicants have they had? Before installing the scorecard, there was no understanding of the weekly changes in numbers. So when we reviewed the scorecard yesterday, I noticed this. In the last 2 weeks, the total number of applicants has halved. This is an incredibly actionable insight. When you see the total number of applications in this business, which is like the most important metric, is cut in half, you have to go figure out what happened. And it's easy to identify this as a problem because you have a scorecard that tells you. And it's not someone saying, hey, I guess I haven't had as many calls this week as I used to. Right? Like, that's not helpful. I don't want someone to give me a feeling on something. I want the cold hard fact. So it's surprising that we had 157 applications 2 weeks ago, only 80 in the last week, but our ad spend went from like $300 to $1,000. So we increased our ad spend, and despite increasing the ad spend, we saw a decrease in applications. Something's going on there. Let's go figure it out. All right, here's another scorecard. A little bit more detailed. And you'll notice that they've got a number here of data points, but these are the most important ones. This is really the top scorecard, and below it is kind of how things work. They're spending a sizable amount on paid media. They're also generating a lot of revenue, right? So in a week, they're generating $140,000, $200,000, et cetera. These numbers right here, them being able to track these numbers on a week over week basis, has absolutely clarified the like the health and position of the business. So when I reviewed this, I noticed this. What is that? A $50,000 decrease in revenue over the last week. And here we could say that this is about the same. Maybe that's within a trend. Why did we see such a big dip here? Well, that's consequential. There's an issue there. So by having the scorecard, we can identify that there's a problem, and then we can go resolve that problem. And if we do that, we can resolve it before the problem gets worse. So I want to ask you, what should be on your scorecard? What numbers matter? Let's just take a minute, grab a pen and paper, and write about them. What are your top 5 KPIs? And it's the number of appointments requested and booked, number of opportunities generated, sales transactions, total sales revenue, and then jobs. This is the most important. For this previous, the most important here was really applications and active employees. What is it for your business? I'd love to hear in the chat. Anyone have anything to share? Would love to see if anyone has any KPI that they're recording or writing down. All right, we'll come back to them at the end. All right, so I want you to write those down so that you have KPIs that you can track. Next, growth hack number 2 is to break down quarterly outcomes into marketing campaigns. So many people say, we need to have this financial outcome for us to be on track for our quarterly or yearly growth. Marketing make it happen. And they expect all of these marketing campaigns to somehow become this like stew of success that somehow gives them what they want. But they're not able to actually identify what marketing campaign is going to bring them what result. So let's talk about an example. A company wants 100 new customers by the end of the quarter. So what marketing campaign should they run? Some companies would just be like, oh, we'll run Facebook ads and Google ads, and we'll do some SEO stuff, and then we're going to do some outbound stuff, and we're going to send our newsletters and some webinars. It's like, okay, those are tactics, but what do you expect from it? What do you anticipate the result to be? You got to slice the pie. So here's what a slice the pie looks like. If you want to have 100 customers by the end of the quarter, you can say, we're going to run Facebook, Google, SEO, and trade show. Okay, how many come from each? Oh, well, I think 25 can come from Facebook ads because we got 20 last quarter, and I think we could do a better job this time around and increase it by 20%. Okay, great. So that's your 25. What about Google ads? Oh, we're confident just with all the search volume that we're able to buy 20 leads from Google ads. Yep, got it. What about SEO? SEO gets us really quality people, but not a lot of volume. I think 10. Okay. And then you've got that trade show. Maybe it's a digital trade show, whatever. You think you can net 15. All right. That's not 100. So what are you going to do to get the rest to cover that number to make it 100? In this case, it's about 30 left. Where do you get those next 30? You have to have a strategy. What I like to see is that you're over in your estimations. You want 100 customers, so you plan for 120, because some campaigns just aren't going to work out. Some campaigns will work better than you thought they would, but you want to try to overreach. So if you don't get it, you still are at your goal number. This notion of slice the pie is so revolutionary in so many businesses, where those businesses have a marketing person that has a clipboard and they just check off that they're doing everything. They say, my job is safe because the boss wanted me to do a newsletter. The boss wanted me to do Facebook ads, Google ads, do some SEO, do some blog posts, and I'm doing it all. I've checked all the boxes. But as business owners, we don't care if you check all the boxes. We care for the result. So give me the result. Don't spend your time sending a newsletter that gets a terrible open rate, no click-through rate, and 0 sales or 0 new customers. Instead, focus on the things that actually matter. And you can do that by this slicing the pie model. So what is your number one quarterly outcome goal for marketing? Take a minute and write it down. And then what do you think the gap is on what you know you can achieve and what you need to achieve? This is simple work for you to do. So for instance, you could say, our number one goal is to have, what can marketing do? If you have a sales organization, marketing provides leads to sales. We'd call those MQLs, right? Marketing qualified leads. What's the volume that they need to produce? Well, you might have to do some math and say, okay, how many sales do I want? How many sales conversations do I need to have? Or sales qualified leads do I need? Then how many marketing qualified leads do I need? Right? So you have to work your way back. You want 100 customers, 100 sales. To work that backwards, you need to have, let's say, 200 sales calls. Then from that, how many leads book a sales call? You might say 1 in 5. So I need 1,000 leads to make 100 sales. Marketing's job may not be to get you 100 sales. It may be to get you 1,000 leads in the quarter, 1,000 marketing qualified leads. So it's important that any goal that you break down for marketing is something that marketing can, in totality, own. Marketing can't own the efficacy of sales, the sales team, right? Marketing can't go over to the sales department and be like, hey guys, why do you not close these deals better. Like, you're not good at your job. Like, that's not their role. Their role is to fill the salespeople's calendars, let's say, or to drive new leads. If instead you're in an e-commerce business, certainly marketing would drive sales directly. So you could identify what your total sales volume is and your acceptable cost per customer acquisition. So you say, I want to make 1,000 sales this month or this quarter. Our acceptable cost per acquisition of a customer is $30 for our lowest level product. And your budget is, X. Can you make that happen? And then the marketing team has to kind of come up with the idea, like, can it happen? If you give, if you ask a chef to say, hey, can you make dinner? The chef's going to be like, oh, that's a tough question, right? Like, yeah, sure, I can make dinner, but like, it's just like so open-ended, right? When you say, hey, marketing, can you get me these sales? It's kind of open-ended. But give that same chef a limit and say, all right, chef, I want you to make dinner, but you can only use these, 3 fruits, these 2 vegetables, and this protein. That chef is going to be creative because they're confined with what they can do. Right? They're going to make some like masterpiece of a meal. Similarly, a marketer or a marketing team needs that kind of limit. You can't just say, hey, just get us all the sales. You have to say, these are the number of sales that we want, that we need to have, and this is the budget for it. Figure out how to make it happen. Go slice that pie. Come back to this and tell me where these people are going to be coming from. Give them that ability to be kind of creative in their own role to solve the problem. So your scorecard, first you listed maybe 5 KPIs that you want to track. Total sales, total SQLs, total MQLs, things like that. And now you need to give it a goal or an outcome for the quarter. How many of those MQLs need to be generated? And then what's the budget for it? What's the acceptable cost per lead or cost per sale to figure out the cost per lead? So now you're kind of putting some rigor in your marketing department to actually have guardrails to focus people. And now the third growth hack is that you need to have one person owning a campaign, and they need to report on it weekly. Now, one person can own multiple campaigns, but you can't have 2 owners of something. And when I say own, I mean that they're accountable to it, that they manage, that they lead it, that like this is the person that has to deliver that thing. If we go all the way back to these Facebook ads, you can have somebody in your organization that owns the outcome of 100 new customers. And then you can have someone that owns Facebook ads delivering 25 new customers by the end of the quarter. That Facebook ad owner owns it in totality. They don't own how the campaign they're not told how the campaign has to run. You don't say, all right, I want to do conversion optimization and I want to do carousel ads and I want 70% of the budget to go to remarketing. Like, no. You don't have to say any of that stuff. You just give the Facebook ad person, you say, hey, you're agreeing that it's possible for us to get 25 new customers by the end of the quarter with this budget. Do you agree to that? And they say, yeah, I think it's possible. It's kind of a stretch, but I think we can do it. Great. You're accountable to it. You own it. If I come to your house in the middle of the night and wake you up and I say, what's your number one goal? I want you to tell me it's delivering me 25 customers through Facebook ads by the end of the quarter. They might have 2 or 3 others, sure, but they know it that clearly. It's like explicitly clear. They own that outcome. Once they own that outcome, they can be creative on how they achieve it, how they spend their budget, where they get training if they need it, pulling in a consultant if needed. Okay. But they need to be able to own the deliverable, own the outcome, and instead of just being told what to do. You're going to get people who are more creative, who are then able to solve problems and not be managed at like this kind of micromanaged level. All right. So when you have someone own these things, they need to report on it on a regular basis. You can't expect success if someone doesn't own the outcome. If we just say, hey, just generally, guys, the whole department, we all need this outcome. And then what happens on the next time you chat and you guys aren't on track for it? Everyone's kind of like, bummer, right? That stinks. Okay, sure. But you want someone to own it so much that they're prepared to tell you why you're not on track and they're prepared to tell you what they're going to do to change it because they own it, okay? So I think you need to have a weekly 60-minute marketing meeting. It's the secret. It's the secret to success in marketing, is to have a weekly touch point. And here's a simple agenda. First 5 minutes on that meeting, it's a landing. So just kind of catch up, have some fun, ask people about, their lives, their family, whatever. And then after that, 5 minutes. 5 minutes are up, boom. Immediately move over to the objective review, which is, what are the objectives that you're trying to achieve? What's that quarterly outcome? You say, all right, real quick, guys, just a reminder, our objective for this quarter is by the end of the quarter, we're delivering 100 new customers to the business at this cost per customer. It's like super duper clear. Maybe you have 3, 4, 5 things like that, okay? And then you go over to the scorecard and you pull up that scorecard and you start reviewing it and you say, hey, are we on track or off track to hit that goal? If we need to hit 25 new customers from Facebook ads, that's 2 a week for the quarter. So we look at the quarter and we see we've had 0 this week. So we say, hey, Bob, you own this. Are we on track or off track for this? He goes, I know it doesn't look good, but we're actually on track. We spent this last week or 2 just building out that whole campaign. So we're going to launch it. We're expecting to see some results, and we'll be able to see customers hopefully come in as soon as Friday. You say, great, on track. That feels good. Sometimes you're on track, sometimes you're off track. When you're on track, things are good. When you're off track, they need attention. So in that last 45 minutes of that hour-long call, you have a discussion. What's off track? Hey, what's up with SEO? Why are we getting less sessions than we used to? Why are we getting less visitors than we used to? What's going on? You guys have a discussion. Okay, how do we solve this? Or you say, hey, I'm blocked on this. I'm blocked on this because you made this handoff for this person and I don't feel deputized to drive this and they're not responding to me. Can you please send an email and say that I'm the boss of this project and that they need to talk to me? And you're like, yeah, absolutely. Send the email. Good. They're unblocked. That kind of conversation in 45 minutes drives the business forward really, really successfully. Who attends your weekly marketing meeting? I think it's your marketing team and it's your stakeholders. It's like your marketing team is reporting to the stakeholders. Maybe it's the CEO, COO, that kind of thing. And it's driven by the highest marketing role. So the CMO should run it. If you don't have a CMO, it's the VP of marketing. It's the director of marketing, or it's the marketing coordinator. Work your way down. But you want the highest level of the marketing person to run it because they're ultimately accountable to the results. Now, one more kind of missing piece in this is a daily stand-up. I believe that it's really helpful for your team to gather together and huddle every day for 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, set the time. Everyone shows up on time and he asks 3 questions to everyone. You say, hey, Hector, what'd you do yesterday? What are you doing today? And are you stuck on anything? That's it. And Hector talks. And then the next person goes, and the next person goes, and the next person goes. And what you'll find is that someone might be like, yeah, I have everything ready to go for these ads. I need to get them live today, but I'm waiting for approval from you. Can you take 10 minutes today and approve them? Like, yeah, absolutely. You realize in the moment that you're blocking them so that you can unblock them and move the business forward. This is completely different than most marketing departments. Most marketing departments just say, okay, boss told me to do these 10 different things. I have my checklist. I'm just going to do them all. And I want to do a good job. I just don't have the capacity. I don't have the resources, and I don't know how to talk about this. So I'm just going to do everything as well as I can, and none of it will be done very well. And when the results aren't good, I can just say, I did what you asked me. By completely shifting the paradigm in your marketing department to this strategy, which is more of an agile marketing department, which is part of the functional marketing process, you're able to get more value out of the same people in the same time. And it's amazing. Those morning calls become fun. Everyone loves hopping on it. They have their little inside jokes. They get clear on everything, and then they're good to go. It's a short meeting. Sometimes people balk at having extra meetings, but it's the one meeting that will unstick them and give them a reason to have less meetings in the future, I think, because they're incrementally getting their problems answered. All right, so quick question for you is, can I help you build your scorecard? I've got just an offer here for anyone that's watching. I'm here to give you a no-cost 30-minute call to define your top 5 KPIs. So the outcome of that call, if you want to schedule it with me, is the 5 KPIs that you must track. We're going to define them and do our best to estimate what those numbers should be. So we'd say you need a total number of leads and cart entrances and sales. Those are like your top 3, let's say. What do we think those values should be for this quarter? I want to help you plan that. If you want to schedule that time with me, you can just go to this website. It's our website, cmox.co/audit. And right there's a little calendar box, and you click a date that works for you, and you can fill up my calendar and book a 30-minute, and we'll get on together, and it will be really straightforward. We'll talk through your business, your main outcomes for the quarter, what the major KPIs are. We'll define it. I'll pass over a basic sheet for you to use if you'd like to track those KPIs. And then if it makes sense, I'll share with you how else we can help your organization and potentially step in and be leaders for you. My business offers fractional chief marketing officers, which are people who step into businesses and lead as if they're the CMO, but instead of working 40 hours a week, they're working 10 hours or maybe less, and they're able to support the organization in the way that it needs without having the high cost. So I would share that with you if it made sense, and certainly no pressure there, but I would love to be able to help clarify your scorecard. So go ahead and just book a time at cmox.co/audit, and we can get 30 minutes to go through your top 5 KPIs. All right. That's it for the presentation. Lori, do we want to jump over to Q&A?
Thank you, Casey. That was a great presentation. Really very straightforward, and yet makes so much sense, because now they can have and use these tools right away. So despite my best efforts, I'm going to need to stop sharing so I can get to the right place in our presentation. Now, while I'm doing that, I do have some audience questions. And the first one is, you talked about the number of KPIs. And if you can perhaps expand on that a little bit as to what that really depends on. Is it the size of your business? Is it the nature of your business?
Yeah,
what
great question.
determines that?
So it's a question that's unique to each organization. And I would say that the more complex your marketing is. So if you're running, if your business includes webinars, if your business includes sales conversations, if it includes growth in social channels, if you really care about those things, then they should be tracked. Most organizations don't need to fuss about social, right? I'm like pretty anti-social. I don't think that running a Instagram page is really going to drive business for you. It'll drive maybe ego, but very seldom does it drive business, unless you're in like an e-commerce or lifestyle brand. Then I think it makes a lot of sense. So working with one organization, we track all sorts of stuff. So one is a franchise, and their scorecard includes different ad channels for people at different stages in launch from the franchise. So when you launch the franchise, you have a certain time where you're kind of blasting off, and then you have another time where you're kind of like mid-tier. You're not mature yet, but you're not super new, and then you're a more mature franchise owner. And in that situation, we just see just the top banner of your slides. There you go. So in that situation, it's important to have all the metrics related to those 3 distinct phases of the franchise business, plus on top of that, any special offers that you're running, plus anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little more complex. It's a little more comprehensive. But in that situation, you know, you're also summarizing the most important numbers for 100, 200, 500 locations. You know, you need more data. On the flip side, so many businesses are actually very simple. I mean, just think about, like, if you had to control your business, there's like these stories of people who, you know, get in car crashes or whatever, and they're entrepreneurs, and they're more successful when they can't do anything, because all they can do is look at a couple numbers and kind of bark orders about them, right? They're like at the very top saying like, oh, that's not enough sales, or that's not enough leads. Like, come up with those leading metrics and use those for leverage, instead of getting, you know, mired in the detail of click-through rate of one of your ads. Like, that doesn't matter as much as, are your ads producing customers at the rate that are necessary? Let the marketing team optimize the ad details while you focus on, is it producing or not? Right? Is it driving us forward or is it not? Is it a yes or a no? that kind of stuff.
I appreciate the roll-up aspect of that, so that the marketing team worries about the details, and yet everybody's really clear about what the bottom line is. And that's what those top KPIs are telling you.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. Here's another one, and this is a little off, perhaps a little off subject. Nonetheless, as far as the social media goes, I noticed that in your example, what the reader was saying, that you've got Facebook, LinkedIn, so forth, Google Ads. Do you recommend any particular social media for a B2B company versus a B2C company? Any overall advice there?
Yeah, certainly. And the answer comes down to, where are your customers? So recently, a campaign that we've been running very successfully, attracting women as buyers for a service, we found them on Facebook. And we can get them also on Instagram around the same cost, but really it's Facebook. Facebook's where the volume comes in. And men are just hard to attract. Men just weren't buying on Facebook. Well, we went and tested over on LinkedIn, and we're getting no women, but we're getting all men, which is very fascinating. And this is not for a business-related service. And it's just, what's interesting about that is men on LinkedIn were just more, aware of the problem that they had. Maybe it was our messaging was better for them. Maybe we're targeting people better. LinkedIn does self-select. Who's on LinkedIn? It's a professional person. And moreover, who checks their LinkedIn is a professional person, So I find that the different platforms are just different. I don't go on Instagram or Facebook to learn much, personally.
Right.
I'll see some photos. Instagram's all photos. Right? I go to Twitter to learn. Those Twitter threads that people write, they're incredible. So if I want to go have deeper, more meaningful conversations, I'll be on Twitter. If I want to be where the most people are, I'll be on Facebook. If I'm more lifestyle, I'll be on Instagram. If I'm more in the business people, I'll be on LinkedIn. And that said, every marketing channel is an avenue to test, and being able to test with the smallest risk possible makes sense. So for instance, I recently tested a platform for one of the companies that I advise, and it produced okay results. And then those results kind of petered off pretty quickly. And we realized in that situation, that campaign is only good to run, let's say, every 6 weeks. Every 6 weeks, we run it for 2 weeks. It's annoying that we can't always keep it on and have it just be like constantly driving us business, but that's just the nature of that specific channel. So they're always going to be a little different, and you just have to kind of create your right mix. It's like when you think of like a sound mixing board with all those like different sliders, you're just finding the right sliders and levels for your business. Maybe it's a little Facebook, maybe it's a little Instagram, maybe it's a lot of LinkedIn, maybe it's mostly cold email, maybe it's SEO, maybe it's joint ventures and partnerships. There's no one right answer, but it's certainly worth kind of testing different things, as long as you test them intelligently and you're not testing everything at once. You shouldn't test. I really like this idea. Take one offer. So whatever you're offering, whatever you're selling. It's one product, one offer. So they're different. A product is the thing that they're getting. The offer is kind of how you package it with maybe a guarantee or whatever. You want one marketing channel. You want to commit to it for 1 year. Do that and master that one channel, and you're going to have more success than that person who tests 5 different channels all at once and doesn't get anywhere with any of them.
I understand that. And it's an ongoing process, because things change over time too, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, it evolves. We saw in some markets in the last few weeks with the COVID relief bill, folks got those checks. And we saw in one market specifically that targets a lower income person that they were no longer interested. They weren't interested for the band of time, I think, that the check takes to spend. Right? They'll probably spend the check and then they'll be back to the point where they're eager to work with this business again. But that was that was a environmental, like just kind of like something that happened in the world, and it just changed buying behavior for a short amount of time. If that was our only traffic source, was to go after folks in a certain platform, and those people were, let's say like their desire was reduced based on receiving those checks, that would have hurt the business. But it's not our only channel. We had multiple channels, so we didn't experience that across the board. We were able to be successful.
Got it. We also have another question from the audience, and what they're asking is, what are good KPIs for a marketing effort focused on brand awareness more than conversions and or sales?
Yeah, good question. So brand awareness is difficult, and attribution is the black magic of today. If it's not COVID, let's just pretend it's not COVID for a minute, okay? And you're in Times Square, and Nike has the swoosh there, and they spend some obscene amount of money to have their swoosh in Times Square. Does that swoosh lead to more Nike shoe sales? It might. Okay. How would you even track that? Because someone might be from Hong Kong, flew into New York, did a weekend, flew home, bought Nike shoes at home. You can't attribute the sales of Nike shoes to the swoosh downtown. That's difficult to do. Knowing that's hard, I advise to do your best to close that attribution gap as much as possible. So really comprehensive tracking. That may mean, like the Google Pixel, the Facebook Pixel, it's a Google script in the Facebook Pixel. They have like these attribution windows, which means if you see our ad and then you buy within 7 days, we're going to say that the ad was an assist to get you to buy. It assisted in it, right? You saw the ad. It was like it was a branding exercise. You saw it, then you bought. We can say if you didn't see it, maybe you wouldn't buy, right? There might be some correlation there. So that's tough to do. Certainly is doable. I remember I spoke with the CFO of Proactive. If you know the Acne Gloop company.
Mm-hmm.
One of the kings of direct response marketing named Dan Kennedy is an advisor there, and they are just incredible marketers. Because at the end of the day, what is Proactive? It's Acne Gloop, and the FDA has only approved like 5 medications to treat acne. They're not special. They're special in their marketing, not in their product. So what he talked about was, we don't make a ton of sales from our infomercials. But I know if we stop running our infomercials, our sales online are going to decrease. Right? Like that attribution is really hard. So he had all these attribution models, and they were very fancy to attribute that TV spot that they had to sales. And it was imperfect. So part of it will be imperfect. But also on the flip side, I encourage you to consider branding. Branding is only valuable for your business if you can capture the person. That's my take. So go brand them, but capture their email. Get them on your website. Be able to remarket to them. Get them to follow you on social media if that's your jam. But just assuming that because someone saw your logo or a banner ad from you, that they're going to remember you is just wrong. They're just bombarded with thousands of pieces of marketing every single day. They're not going to remember you unless you're extremely outrageous and memorable. But even then, that doesn't mean that they're ever going to do business with you. So branding as an effort, to me, I would much rather, instead of doing a branding effort, I'd rather start a LinkedIn group and invite people into it. Right? At least I would own that asset. Or I'd rather have them all download an ebook from me, or download a white paper or a PDF or whatever. But I want to capture that person so I can follow up with them. I don't want to let anyone have to follow up with me. I even think back when I met my wife. We met on online dating, and this was like 9 years ago, and we had this great connection, and then she ghosted me. So I was like in a position where like she knew me, like she knew my brand, right? But like, was she going to come back? So like I had to go kind of chase her. Right? I had her contact information, so I could. But if you lack that, you're just like on the waiting end for someone to remember and then to take action. So collect that contact information and go get them, however makes sense for your business.
Great answer. And I think that's the questions that we have. So, Casey, thank you again for a great presentation. Always a pleasure to be able to discuss these things with you. And now I'm going to turn the webinar back over to Hector.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Sure.
All right. Well, thanks so much. And we have some upcoming events. I shared some information already via the chat. Next month will be, if you're looking to scale your business, you can join us for our next session, and that is 9 surefire ways to scale your business. I've shared the short link where you can register for this. It will be held April 28th, and it'll be the same time, same channel, just a month later. And also a little bit more about us. We make a positive impact within organizations. And if you're, whether you're looking to scale your business or you're looking to prepare your business for a merger or acquisition, or you need investors because you're looking for funding to continue growing your business, feel free to contact us. I've shared our website as well as our emails for Lori and myself in case that you're interested. And we're always happy to set up a free appointment and kind of understand your situation and how we can help. And here's our contact information. You can either contact us via email, you can follow us or connect with us on LinkedIn. The URLs shown here, and I've shared these via the chat, are for our LinkedIn profile, so you can connect with us, or you can also visit our website at BYONDMA.com. And with that, I'd like to close and thank all of you. If you have any questions, any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out. I do want to also say and remind everyone that we'll be sending a link where you can view today's content, and they'll include the video, the slides, and any other information. And be sure to take up Casey on his offer for appointments. If you're actually looking to build your balanced scorecard, feel free to reach out to us if you're looking to scale your business or if you're looking for funding for your business to grow it. Thanks so much and have a great day.